He said it loudly, so she would hear, and his friends laughed even louder, as if her dignity was some kind of roadside joke. Bet I can rope in that country girl, he smirked, leaning against his expensive car, sunglasses on, confidence shining like the chrome under the sun. She stood a few meters away with her small folding table, glass bottles of milk lined up neatly, her braid resting over her shoulder, her face calm but pale. The highway roared behind her, cars rushing past, dust rising in the heat. She had heard worse before. In a small town, people talked. In a rich man's world, they laughed. She kept her eyes down and continued pouring fresh milk into a customer's jar, her movements steady, careful, almost gentle. Inside, though, something tightened in her chest. His name was Viktor Volkov, the mayor's son, heir to half the district's businesses, owner of the biggest construction company in the region, the kind of man who never heard the word no. Everyone knew him. Everyone feared him. He and his friends often drove past the highway stalls just to mock the vendors, especially her. A simple milkmaid, they called her, as if that word erased her humanity. They joked about her clothes, about her village accent, about her quiet nature. She never answered back, not because she had nothing to say, but because she knew how power worked. Her father had lost their land years ago when Victor's company bought half the farmland for a luxury resort. The compensation was unfair, but no one dared challenge it. Her father fell ill soon after, heartbroken more than sick. Since then, she had been the one waking before sunrise, milking the cows, bottling the milk, driving the old van to the highway to sell enough to survive. She did not look weak, but she looked small compared to the world he controlled. Victor walked closer that day, pretending to examine a bottle. He smiled in a way that was not kind. He asked her name, even though he already knew it. She answered softly, Anna. He repeated it as if tasting it. His friends laughed again. He said he could make her life easier, that she did not belong on a dusty roadside, that a girl like her should be grateful for attention from someone like him. She nodded politely and said nothing. Silence was her shield. That only amused him more. He told his friends to watch, that he would have her number by the end of the week, maybe more. The humiliation burned, but she did not let it show. She focused on her bottles, on the weight of them in her hands, on the smell of fresh milk that reminded her of mornings at the farm before everything was taken. That evening, when she counted her earnings, they were less than usual. Some customers avoided her stall when Victor and his friends were around. Power did not need to shout to cause damage. It simply existed. She drove home slowly, the sun setting behind the fields that were no longer hers. Sadness followed her like a shadow. She felt helpless, not because she was weak, but because the system was stronger. Still, when she stepped into the barn and her cows greeted her with soft sounds, she felt a small, quiet hope. These animals did not laugh. They did not judge. They depended on her, and she would not fail them. She whispered to herself that storms pass, even when they seem endless. She did not know how or when, but she believed in patience, because patience was the only power she truly owned. Victor returned the next day, and the day after that. He began buying milk from her, paying with large bills and telling her to keep the change, as if generosity could erase disrespect. He spoke kindly now, but there was still a game in his eyes. He asked about her family. She answered briefly. He offered to drive her home. She declined politely. His friends watched. From a distance, whispering and laughing. Rumors spread quickly through the village. Some said she was lucky. Others said she was foolish not to accept his attention. She felt trapped between judgment and pressure. One afternoon he arrived alone. No friends. No loud laughter. He leaned against her table and said he admired her strength. He said not many girls would endure public teasing without breaking. She looked at him carefully for the first time. There was something restless in him, something unsteady beneath the confidence. He told her about the resort expansion project. More farmland would be purchased. More families would have to leave. He spoke as if it were simple business. Her hands froze around a bottle. She asked quietly if the families had agreed. He shrugged and said agreements can be arranged. That was the moment her helplessness deepened. It was not just about her pride. It was about others like her father. She felt anger rise, but she swallowed it. Anger would only feed his ego. Instead, she asked him why he cared so much about winning bets. He looked surprised. She continued softly, saying that people are not prizes. He laughed at first, then saw she was serious. For a second, his mask slipped. He said he was used to getting what he wanted. She nodded and said that must be lonely. The words hung between them. He did not respond. Over the next weeks, he kept coming back, but something had changed. He no longer mocked her. He asked questions. Real ones. About farming, about early mornings, about responsibility. She answered honestly, without trying to impress him. Quiet hope began to grow inside her. Not hope that he would fall in love, but hope that maybe he would understand consequences. She was patient. She did not flirt. She did not encourage. She simply remained herself. Meanwhile, she began attending town meetings about the land purchases. She sat in the back, listening. She spoke only once, her voice calm but clear, asking for transparency in contracts. People turned to look at her. Victor was there too. He watched silently. It was the first time she had challenged the system publicly. It was small, but it mattered. Pressure increased as the resort plans moved forward. Some farmers accepted low offers out of fear. Others resisted. Anonymous complaints about unfair practices reached regional authorities. Investigations were mentioned quietly. Victor seemed distracted when he visited her stall. He asked her one evening if she thought he was a bad person. She did not answer immediately. She said she thought he had choices. And choices define a person. He looked at the horizon for a long time. She told him about her father's illness, about the land they lost, about how helpless she felt watching papers being signed without true consent. She did not accuse him directly. She just told the truth. He listened without interrupting. That night he did not smile when he left. Days later, news spread that regional auditors were reviewing the resort contracts. Documents had been leaked. Some signatures were questioned. The mayor publicly defended the project, but uncertainty grew. Victor stopped coming to the highway for a while. She focused on her work, on her cows, on her routine. Patience again. Hope again. Not loud, not dramatic. Just steady. Then one morning black cars arrived at the town hall. Officials stepped out. Meetings were held behind closed doors. By evening it was announced that the expansion would be suspended pending investigation into coercion and land valuation fraud. The word fraud echoed through the village like thunder. People whispered Victor's name. She felt her heart race, not with joy, but with relief. Justice was not revenge. It was balance returning slowly. A week later Victor came back to her stall, alone, without sunglasses, without arrogance. He looked tired. He said the investigation was serious. Contracts would be reviewed. Some land might be returned. He admitted he had ignored the human cost for too long. She listened quietly. He said he had started the bet as a joke, because he was bored, because he believed power made him untouchable. He paused and said meeting her had forced him to see himself differently. She did not smile. She told him change is proven by actions, not words. He nodded. Months passed. Several families regained fair compensation. Some land deals were cancelled. The mayor stepped down amid scrutiny. Victor resigned from active management and publicly supported a cooperative farming initiative instead of the luxury resort. People were skeptical at first. So was she. But he continued working quietly, without boasting. One evening, as the sun set over fields that were once nearly lost, she stood by her stall and watched cars pass. He approached and bought a bottle of milk like any other customer. No jokes. No bets. Just a simple thank you. She realized then that the real victory was not humiliating him in return. It was standing firm without losing her dignity. Sadness had shaped her. Helplessness had tested her. Quiet hope had sustained her. Patience had guided her. And justice, unexpected and slow, had arrived not with applause, but with accountability and change. As she packed her table and prepared to drive home, she felt stronger than ever. Not because a powerful man had fallen, but because she had never allowed herself to become small in the face of power.